The hallway of the royal spire hummed with the subsonic vibration of the chorus, a sound that every Ailuri felt in their marrow, and every human felt as a migraine. Adam pressed his back against the cold, synthetic marble of the maintenance alcove, holding his breath. He was not fixing a circuit. He was hiding. 10 seconds later, the soft, rhythmic click of claws on polished stone passed his hiding spot. He did not need to look to know who it was. The cadence was uneven, lacking the subconscious synchronization that linked every other member of the species to the planetary network. It was a walk of determined solitude. It was Daisy, or formally, Her Royal Highness Princess Daisy. Adam waited until the footsteps faded, before exhaling a cloud of stress. He checked his wrist chrono. It was 1400 hours. He had successfully avoided the princess for 3 days, 4 hours, and 20 minutes. It was not that he disliked her. God, it was the opposite. That was the problem. Every time he looked at her, really looked at her with her large, intelligent eyes that held a depth of sorrow he could not fix with a soldering iron, his heart rate spiked to levels that were frankly unprofessional. And, in the Ailuri court, where emotion was read through pheromones and microtremors, Adam felt like he was screaming his affection through a megaphone. He was a signal engineer, a contractor from Earth, hired to patch up the degrading communication arrays of a civilization that was technically superior, but culturally stagnant. He was supposed to be invisible. Getting involved with the broken daughter of the Cat Queen was a fast track to being deported, or perhaps dismantled. Contractor Adam. The voice did not come from the hallway. It came from his own earpiece overriding his music playlist. It was a direct line, encrypted heavily enough to make his datapad heat up against his thigh. Speaking, Adam said, straightening his jumpsuit. Coordinates transferred, the voice said. It was not a synthesized voice. It was deep resonant and carried an undertone of a growl that made the hair on Adam's arms stand up. It was Queen Eve. The North Cabin. Immediate transport provided. We require a private talk. Adam blinked. Your Majesty, I am currently scheduled to calibrate the... Now, Adam. The line went dead. The transport skiff sliced through the twilight, leaving the sprawling crystal spires of the capital far behind. They were heading deep into the boreal zones, where the planet's magnetic field twisted the falling snow into impossible shapes. Adam shivered, pulling his thermal coat tighter. The pilot, a member of the Royal Guard with fur the color of charcoal, said nothing. They never spoke to the contractors unless necessary. Outside the reinforced glass, the world was a study in bioluminescence. The trees here were not cellulose. They were towering structures of semi-organic silicon, their needles glowing with a faint, pulsing blue light. The snow did not just fall. It spiraled. Adam watched as a gust of wind caught a drift of snowflakes, and instead of scattering, they swirled into a perfect Fibonacci sequence before settling. It looked like the atmosphere itself was trying to communicate. We are here, the pilot said. The skiff touched down in a clearing that felt unnaturally quiet. The hum of the chorus, usually an omnipresent background noise of static in Adam's implants, was different here. It was deeper, more guttural, a purr that shook the teeth. Adam stepped out, his boots crunching on the frozen crust. Before him stood the cabin. It was a structure of legend in the engineering documents he had read. Built from ancestral wood, which Adam suspected was actually a high-grade polymer composite. Grown from the planet's core, it looked rustic only from a distance. Up close, the logs seemed to breathe, expanding and contracting microscopically. The windows glowed with the warmth of a fire that had likely been burning for 500 years. Private talk, Adam muttered to himself, gripping his toolkit as if it were a weapon. Just a performance review. A very intense royal performance review. He approached the heavy front door. There was no handle, only a flat panel of obsidian embedded in the wood at chest height. Adam hesitated. He reached for his standard-issue contractor clearance card, the plastic rectangle that opened the maintenance shafts and the cafeteria. He held the card up to the panel. Nothing happened. He frowned. He tapped the card against the black stone. Still nothing. "Great," he whispered, locked out of the royal summons. He sighed and leaned his hand against the doorframe to check his datapad for a frequency key. His bare palm brushed the obsidian panel. The door did not beep. It did not buzz. Instead, a deep, resonant thrum moved through the wood, vibrating up Adam's arm and settling in his chest. Access granted. Biometric match confirmed. "Welcome home, secondary anchor." The automated voice whispered directly into his auditory implants, bypassing his external ears. Adam froze. The heavy door swung inward with absolute silence, revealing the golden light within. "Secondary anchor," Adam whispered, his voice cracking. "I think there is a glitch in the database. I am just the IT guy." "Are you going to let all the heat out?" a voice cut through the cold air. "Or are you planning to freeze the entire bloodline?" Adam stiffened. He stepped inside the door, sealing shut behind him with the finality of a coffin lid. The interior was vast, far larger than it appeared from the outside. The walls were lined with tapestries that shifted images, slowly scenes of celestial navigation and ancient wars. A massive hearth dominated the center of the room, burning with a fire that was not orange, but a roiling violet plasma contained within a force field. Standing by the fire was Queen Eve. She was not in her ceremonial robes, the heavy layers of silk and armor she wore in the throne room to look diplomatic. This was her primal form. She stood nearly 7 feet tall, her spine arched in a predatory curve. Her fur was not soft. It shimmered with a metallic iridium sheen. Her claws were unsheathed, tapping a rhythm against the stone hearth that sounded like bullets hitting armor. But it was her eyes that pinned Adam to the floor. They were vast, swirling nebulas of gold and green pupils slit into razor-thin vertical lines. "Approach," Eve commanded. "Don't let the snow listen." Adam swallowed dryly and walked forward, his boots feeling heavy. As he moved past the high-backed chairs near the fire, he saw he was not the only guest. Daisy sat on a velvet ottoman, her knees pulled to her chest. She wore a simple tunic, devoid of the complex circuitry jewelry that usually signaled rank. When she saw Adam, her ears flattened against her skull, a sign of embarrassment, but her tail gave a traitorous, involuntary twitch of delight. Next to her, dangling upside down from the back of a sofa, was Lily. The younger princess was a ball of chaotic energy, her eyes wide and mischievous. "Oh, look," Lily chirped, flipping herself upright with impossible grace. "It is the Phantom Engineer. You avoid my sister with the skill of a prey animal, Adam. It is almost impressive." "Lily," Daisy hissed, her voice sounding strained. "I have not been avoiding anyone," Adam lied, bowing awkwardly to the Queen. "I have been optimizing the signal-to-noise ratio in the lower sectors." "You have been hiding in ventilation shafts," Eve said. She did not turn her head. She stared into the violet fire. "My security drones have logged your location. You spent 2 hours yesterday in a recycling bay that smelled of ozone and despair." Adam winced. "The acoustics are good there." "Sit," Eve ordered. Adam sat. He chose the chair furthest from Daisy, but the layout of the room forced them into a rough triangle. He tried not to look at the princess, but he could feel her gaze. It felt like static electricity on his skin. "Do you know where you are, engineer?" Eve asked, finally turning to face him. The firelight caught the edges of her metallic fur, making her look like a statue come to life. "The North Cabin, Your Majesty," Adam said. "A historical site." "It is a node," Eve corrected. "The oldest on the planet. This is where the first chorus was sung. Tonight is the alignment. Every 20 years, the planetary defense grid, the chorus, must be rekeyed to the biological frequency of the ruling line. It happens here." Adam nodded slowly. He knew the theory. The chorus was a biodigital network, a symbiotic link between the Alluri physiology and the planet's magnetosphere. It was how they communicated instantly over thousands of miles. It was how they guided their ships. It was their internet, their religion, and their military radar, all in one. Technically, Adam said, his engineer brain taking over to mask his nervousness, it is a resonant frequency calibration. You need to sync the royal biomarkers with the planetary core to update the encryption keys. Precisely, Eve said. She gestured to Daisy. And therein lies the problem. Adam looked at Daisy. The princess was staring at her hands. Daisy cannot sing, Lily said, her voice losing its teasing edge. She picked up a spherical object from the table and tossed it, hand to hand. She is static. It was the open secret of the Empire. Daisy, the eldest, the heir apparent, had been born without the neural receptors to interface with the chorus. To the Alluri who lived in a constant ocean of shared connection, she was not just deaf. She was cut off from the soul of her species. I can feel the vibrations, Daisy said softly. She looked up, her eyes locking onto Adam's. Through the floor, through the air pressure, I learned to read the lights. She reads lips, Lily added, and micro-expressions, and she is better at math than the royal calculator. But she cannot join the consensus, Eve said, her voice heavy, with a mother's pain masked by a queen's pragmatism. And tonight the alignment requires a unison signal from the bloodline. Chancellor Soren knows this. He expects the ritual to fail. At the mention of Soren, the air in the room seemed to drop 5 degrees. Chancellor Soren, the High Minister of Infrastructure, a man who believed the purity of the Alluri species was being diluted by off-world technology, specifically human technology. He had been lobbying the council to bypass Daisy in the line of succession, arguing that a queen who could not hear her people could not protect them. Soren will be here within the hour, Eve said, ostensibly to witness the ritual, in reality to document the error and force my abdication in favor of a regency council. So, Adam said, leaning forward, you need me to what? Fake the signal? Your Majesty, I can patch a comms array, but I cannot spoof a planetary biological interface. The chorus would reject a fake signal as a virus. I do not want you to fake it, Eve said. She took a step closer to Adam, looming over him. I want you to translate it, Adam blinked. Translate. I have watched you, Eve said. Her eyes narrowed. I have watched the security feeds. I have seen you and my daughter in the library archives, in the gardens. Adam's heart hammered against his ribs. We were just discussing. You were not speaking, Eve interrupted. You were tapping. Adam froze. Rhythms, Eve continued. Fingers on a table, claws on a book spine, a sequence of impacts, a code. Daisy looked away, her cheeks flushing a darker shade of violet. It is Morse code, Adam admitted, his voice small. An ancient human binary language. Dots and dashes. I taught it to her because... He looked at Daisy. Because sometimes the chorus is too loud for everyone else, and she needed a way to speak that did not require a network. It is our language, Daisy said, her voice gaining a sudden strength. She raised her hands. It is precise. It is private. It is not dependent on the biological lottery. Eve stared at Adam. You created a bridge that bypasses the chorus entirely, a private channel. It is just tapping, Your Majesty, Adam said, trying to downplay it. It is not treason. It is intimacy, Eve countered. The word hung in the air. I do not care about your romance, engineer. I care about survival. You communicate with her when no one else can. You are the only one who can synchronize with her rhythm. Your Majesty, Adam said, panic rising. Are you implying? The cabin recognized you, Eve said. Did you not find that strange? The door opened for you. I thought it was a malfunction. The cabin is not just wood, Eve said. It is a hybrid. 500 years ago, during the first contact, the founders used salvage from the first human colony ships to reinforce the core of this structure. The logic engine of this house is half Ailuri crystal, half human silicon. It recognized your heartbeat because it was programmed to look for a compatible interface. Adam stared at his hands. He was an engineer. He dealt in facts and schematics. This sounded like mysticism. So, because I am human and I taught your daughter Morse code, the magic cabin likes me. Because you are a signal bridge, Eve said sharply. Tonight, when the alignment begins, Daisy cannot push her will into the chorus. But she can push it to you, and you can amplify it into the system. That is insane, Adam said. If I interface with the royal loop, the feedback could fry my neural cortex. I am rated for 20 volts, not the psychic weight of a planet. And if we do not try, Daisy said, speaking up, Soren takes the throne. And the first thing he will do is purge the alien contaminants. That means you, Adam, and Dr. Harlow, and every other human on Ailuri. Adam looked at Daisy. She wasn't pleading. She was stating a fact. She was looking at him with that terrifying mixture of intelligence and hope. Suddenly, a dry, mechanical voice echoed from the corner of the room. I hate to interrupt this heartwarming moment of cross-species conspiracy, the voice said. A small, spherical drone hovered out of the shadows. It had holographic cat ears projected on top of its chassis, and a single, unblinking red eye. This was Milo, the cabin's custodian AI. Milo, Eve said. Report. Seismic sensors are detecting a rhythmic anomaly in the basement foundation, Milo said. It sounds like a purr, but distorted. Like a cat coughing up a hairball made of jagged metal. The chorus is unstable, Eve said. We are running out of time. Also, Milo added, his voice dripping with synthetic sarcasm, there are guests, uninvited, heavily armed, and possessing a very poor fashion sense. Adam stood up, moving to the window. Through the swirling, glowing snow, he saw lights. Not the soft bioluminescence of the forest, but the harsh, white beams of military-grade searchlights. A convoy of armored skimmers was breaking through the tree line. Soren, Lily whispered, clutching her datapad. He is early. He is not early, Eve growled, her claws extending fully. He is impatient. Adam looked down at the control panel near the window. He saw the vibration readings Milo had mentioned. The graph wasn't just a random spike. It was a pattern, a synthetic interference pattern designed to jam a signal. That is not a natural fluctuation, Adam said, his engineer's mind snapping into focus. Someone is jamming the cabin's frequency from the outside. If we try to run the alignment now, the feedback won't just fail. It will backlash. Backlash? Daisy asked. It will erase the current admin privileges, Adam said, turning to face the Queen. If we start the ritual while that jamming signal is active, the chorus will interpret the Queen as a corrupted file. It will lock you out, permanently. Eve's eyes widened. A coup by technicality. He doesn't have to fight you, Adam realized. He just has to trick the house into rejecting you. The heavy thud of boots on the porch echoed through the room. The door, the one that had opened so gently for Adam, shuddered under a heavy blow. Open up, a voice boomed from outside. For the safety of the Queen, Eve looked at Adam. For the first time, the terrifying Cat Queen looked vulnerable. Not weak, but cornered. They cannot come in unless the cabin allows it, Eve said. Or unless they override the lock. They have a decoding RAM, Milo noted helpfully. Calculating door integrity 3 minutes. 2 if they use the plasma cutters. Which honestly is incredibly rude to the antique varnish. Daisy moved to Adam's side. She didn't touch him, but he could feel the heat radiating from her. Adam, she whispered. Her hand twitched at her side. Tap, 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 trust. Adam looked at her hand, then at the door, then at the Queen. Milo, Adam said, his voice steadying. Do we have a localized jammer? Something short-range. I have a microwave emitter for reheating tea, Milo said. It will have to do, Adam said. He looked at Eve. I need access to the subfloor. Now, if I can rewire the cabin's recognition protocol before they cut through that door, we might survive this. And if you cannot, Eve asked. The door shuddered again, the wood groaning. Through the window, Adam saw a figure standing amidst the armored guards. A tall Ailuri with silver fur and robes that whipped in the wind. Chancellor Soren. Soren looked up his gaze, bypassing the Queen, bypassing the guards, and locking directly onto Adam through the glass. He smiled, a cold, knowing expression that suggested he knew exactly who and what Adam was. If I cannot, Adam said, pulling a laser driver from his belt, then I hope you have a very good lawyer, or a very fast ship. Go, Eve commanded. She turned to the door, assuming her war stance. I will buy you time. I will make them regret knocking. Daisy grabbed Adam's arm. The hearthroom, under the rug. Adam nodded. He ran toward the fireplace, his heart beating a frantic rhythm against his ribs. The cabin watched him. The snow swirled outside, and the door began to hiss as the plasma cutter bit into the ancient wood. The private talk was over. The night shift had begun. The cup of meteor tea on the side table had stopped steaming 20 minutes ago. The liquid, usually a vibrant, swirling nebula of purple and gold, had settled into a stagnant, muddy bruise of a color. Adam stared at it, calculating the thermal decay rate in his head just to keep from screaming. Across the room, Princess Daisy sat with a stillness that was almost unnatural. Her posture was perfect, her spine a straight line of defiance against the velvet cushions, but her eyes were burning. They were fixed on the heavy oak door, where two of Chancellor Soren's personal guards now stood like statues cast in graphite and malice. The atmosphere in the cabin had shifted from a sanctuary to a cage. Chancellor Soren had not kicked the door down. He was a politician, not a battering ram. He had simply waited until the security protocols, confused by the jamming signal, defaulted to a fail-safe open state. He had swept in with a smile that showed too many teeth, claiming the Queen's safety required immediate, heavy-handed intervention. Now, the cabin was infested. Small, hovering surveillance drones, Soren's eyes, drifted through the air like lazy metallic hornets. They scanned everything, the tapestries, the teacups, the way Adam's fingers twitched near his tool belt. Contractor Adam, Soren's voice was smooth, like oil sliding over a razor blade. Adam turned. The Chancellor was standing by the main diagnostic console of the cabin, running a gloved hand over the ancient wood. Soren was a striking specimen of the Ailuri race, his fur a sleek silver blue, his robes embroidered with the circuitry patterns of high office. But there was a tightness around his eyes, a tremor of tension that only an engineer looking for stress fractures would notice. Chancellor, Adam replied, keeping his voice flat. This structure, Soren said, tapping a panel. It refuses to interface with my standard diagnostics. It calls itself a hybrid node. I am told you are the resident expert on antique trash. It is not trash, Adam said, stepping forward before he could stop himself. It is a composite alloy from the first human colony ships, the hull plating of the Voyager class. It is fused with your native crystal growth. It is stronger than anything you are building today. Soren's lip curled. Stronger, or perhaps just more stubborn, like the people who built it. He turned his gaze fully on Adam. You will assist my technicians. I want a full schematic of the sensory grid of this cabin within 1 hour. I need to know every blind spot. For the Queen's protection, of course. Adam felt the trap closing. If he refused, he was suspicious. If he agreed, he was handing Soren the keys to the castle. I will need clearance, Adam said. And I work better without a drone hovering over my shoulder. You will work how I tell you to work, Soren said softly. Then he smiled again, that terrible diplomatic smile. However, the Queen insists on maintaining the sanctity of the inner sanctum. She has requested you examine the hearthroom sensors first. Alone. She claims your human biosignature causes less interference. Adam glanced at Eve. The Queen was standing by the frozen window, her back to them. She gave a microscopic nod. She had bought them a window, a blind spot. Fine, Adam said. I will check the core. He grabbed his toolkit and headed for the archway, leading to the lower levels. As he passed Daisy, he did not look at her, but he dragged the heel of his boot on the floorboards in a specific rhythm. Short, short, long, short. Wait. The hearthroom was less a room and more a cathedral of machinery. Located directly beneath the main living area, it housed the physical heart of the cabin. Here, the rustic wood gave way to exposed beams of titanium and pulsating veins of Ailuri data crystals. The air smelled of ozone and old dust. Adam knelt by the main coupler, flipping open his data pad. He wasn't scanning for blind spots for Soren. He was looking for the jammer. A soft sound behind him made him freeze. It wasn't the hum of a drone. It was the scuff of a slipper. He turned. Daisy stood at the bottom of the stairs. She had slipped away from the guards. "They think I am in the lavatory," she whispered. Her voice was low, barely audible over the hum of the drive core. "Lily is creating a scene about a missing earring to distract the drone operator." Adam let out a breath he didn't know he was holding. "Your sister is terrifying. Remind me never to owe her money." Daisy didn't smile. She walked over to him, her movements hesitant. In the blue light of the core, she looked ethereal, almost ghostly. "Adam, we do not have much time." "I know," Adam said, turning back to the console. "Soren is mapping the place. He is looking for the control nodes. Once he finds them, he can lock your mother out." "I do not care about the nodes," Daisy said. Adam stopped typing. He looked up. "I care about why you ran," she said. Adam swallowed. "I did not run. I was summoned." "You have been running for 3 days," Daisy said. She took a step closer. The distance between them felt charged heavy with unsaid words. "Ever since the banquet. Ever since you touched my hand to give me the fork you dropped." "It was a breach of protocol," Adam said, his voice tight. "I am a contractor. You are the crown princess. If anyone saw, no one saw," Daisy cut in. "Because no one looks at me. To them I am just a glitch in the system. A broken radio that cannot play the song." She looked down at her hands. "But you look at me." "Daisy," Adam warned, using her name instead of her title. It felt dangerous. "Why?" she asked, looking up again. Her eyes were wide, searching his face. "Why do you talk to me? Why did you teach me the tapping code? Why do you treat me like I am real?" Adam leaned back against the cold metal of the console. He wanted to lie. He wanted to make a joke about his hourly rate. But looking at her stripped of her royal pretense, just a girl terrified of her own future, he couldn't do it. "Because I hate the chorus," Adam said. The truth tumbled out before he could check it. Daisy blinked. "What?" "I hate it," Adam said, gesturing vaguely at the ceiling. I know it is a miracle of bioengineering. It is peace. It is unity. But from the outside, it is a hive. It is a wall of noise that drowns out everything individual. When I look at your people, I do not see individuals. I see terminals in a network." He looked at her. "But you are disconnected. You are quiet. When you speak, it is you speaking, not the consensus. You are the only person on this planet who feels human." Daisy stared at him. A slow flush rose on her cheeks, contrasting with her pale fur. "So," she whispered, "you like me because I am defective?" "No," Adam said fiercely. "I like you because you are singular." The silence that followed was thick enough to drown in. Adam realized what he had said. He had crossed the line. He had sprinted across it. "I am bad at this," he muttered, rubbing the back of his neck. "I am an engineer. I fix signals. I do not handle royalty or feelings." I usually just repress everything until I have a nervous breakdown in a scheduled holiday window. That sounds inefficient, Daisy said. A small, genuine smile tugged at the corner of her mouth. It is a human survival strategy, a new voice chimed in. They both jumped. Lily was hanging upside down from a support beam above them, her legs hooked securely around a pipe. Lily, Daisy hissed. I found the earring, Lily said, dropping to the floor with a soft thud. She dusted off her tunic. And also, Adam, that approach is called the slow suicide tactic in psychology textbooks. You should really try therapy. Is anyone guarding the door? Adam asked, exasperated. Milo is, Lily said. He is currently explaining the history of floor wax to the guard. The guard looks like he wants to shoot himself. Adam shook his head. Okay, focus. We are down here for a reason. His datapad pinged. A single, high-pitched note. Adam frowned and looked at the screen. That is not a diagnostic alert. He tapped the screen. A stream of data unspooled, fragmented, jagged code that looked like tear marks on the screen. It is from Celine, Adam said. The librarian. Celine, Daisy asked. How did she get a signal through Soren's jammer? She did not send a signal, Adam said, reading the code. She embedded this message in the background static of the chorus 3 hours ago. It just washed up here. He projected the data into the air. A hologram of the planetary chorus network appeared, a beautiful weaving sphere of light. But right near the North Pole where the cabin sat, there were ugly, dark, jagged lines. Data stitches, Adam murmured. What are those? Lily asked, leaning in. It is clumsy coding, Adam explained. When you try to patch a piece of foreign code into a secure system, it leaves a scar. These stitches match the signal signature of the interplanetary black market. Specifically, the chaotic frequencies used by smugglers to hide their cargo from scanners. Smugglers, Daisy frowned. Why would Soren be working with smugglers? Because he needs tech that does not exist in the Royal Archives, Adam said. He turned back to the main console of the cabin. He needs something that can rewrite a node. Adam pulled a hydrospanner from his belt and jammed it into the access panel of the hearthroom's core. With a twist, he popped the cover plate off. Inside, the machinery wasn't glowing with the steady golden pulse of Ailuri tech. It was flashing, an angry, irregular red rhythm. Look at the light, Adam said. It is offbeat. Daisy watched the pulsing crystal. It looks anxious. It is a forced resynchronization, Adam said, his fingers flying across his datapad. Soren has installed a sleeper program in the core. It is scheduled to activate tonight exactly at the moment the alignment begins. What will it do? Daisy asked. It is a filter, Adam said, his face pale in the red light. When you try to step into the circle, the system checks for the royal frequency. This program shifts the required frequency by 0.03%. That is tiny, Lily said. It is enough, Adam said grimly. It is like changing a password by one letter. The system will reject you. It will look like a natural failure. The princess is incompatible. The bloodline has failed. The cabin will lock you out and Soren will step in as the emergency administrator to save the planet. Daisy stared at the red light. Her hands were trembling. He is not just blocking me, she whispered. He is erasing me. He is rewriting the definition of queen so that you do not fit, Adam said. He felt a surge of anger, hot and sharp. He looked at Daisy. She didn't look like a princess. She looked like a technician whose life's work was being deleted by a middle manager. Can we stop it? Lily asked. If I try to delete the program, it will trigger an alarm, Adam said. Soren will know we found it. He will storm the room. So we let it happen, Daisy asked, her voice hollow. No, Adam said. He looked at the hybrid alloy of the walls, the human steel fused with Ailuri soul. We do not delete it. We outshout it. He reached into his bag and pulled out a pair of gloves. They were prototype haptic interface gloves, covered in sensors, and copper wiring. He had been building them in his spare time originally to help him play virtual piano. "Put these on," Adam said, handing them to Daisy. She hesitated, then slid her hands into them. They were too big, but the auto laces tightened around her wrists. "What are these?" she asked. "A translator," Adam said. He put on a matching pair. "Daisy, the chorus is a broadcast. It is a shout. But in this cabin, it listens to vibrations. It listens to the floor. It listens to heartbeats." He held up his hands' palms, facing hers, but not touching. "Tap," he said. Daisy twitched her index finger. "Tap." Adam felt the vibration instantly in his own gloves. It was crisp, clear, and immediate. "I can feel it," she breathed. "This is a closed loop," Adam said. "A local network just for us. Tonight when the ritual starts, do not try to sing to the chorus. You cannot. Instead, talk to me. Tap the rhythm into the gloves. I will be connected to the core's manual override. I will take your rhythm, amplify it, and force-feed it into the system underneath Soren's filter." Daisy looked at him. "You are going to act as my amplifier." "I am going to be your microphone," Adam said. "We are going to make a third tongue, one that Soren does not speak." Daisy raised her hands again. She tapped a complex sequence, rapid fluid like rain on a tin roof. "THANKYOU." Adam smiled. He tapped back. "YOUHAVEBADGRAMMAR." Daisy laughed. It was a short, startled sound, but it was the most beautiful thing Adam had heard all day. "So," she said, her eyes shining. "This is a third tongue." "Yeah," Adam said softly. "And we are definitely breaking royal protocol." Suddenly, the lights in the hearthroom flickered. The red pulse of the sabotage program sped up. "He is testing the trigger," Adam said, checking his pad. "Soren is running a simulation." "We need to go back up," Lily said, moving to the stairs. Before he realizes the missing earring was a ruse. Adam stripped off his gloves and hid them in his toolkit. Daisy did the same, tucking hers into the sash of her tunic. "Adam," she said, grabbing his arm before he could turn away. "If this works, what happens to you, Soren will know." "Let us worry about surviving the night first," Adam said. "One disaster at a time." They emerged from the sublevel, just as the main door of the cabin opened again. A gust of freezing wind and snow swirled into the room, making the fire flare. Soren stood there, but he wasn't looking at the Queen anymore. He was looking at the datapad in his hand. He looked up and saw Adam coming up the stairs. "Engineer," Soren said. "A word." It wasn't a request. Adam nodded to Daisy and walked over to the Chancellor. Soren led him away from the main group into a small alcove near the kitchen area where the shadows were deep. "You found something," Soren said. It wasn't a question. "I found a lot of dust," Adam lied, "and some wiring that needs replacing." Soren stepped closer. He smelled of expensive cologne and fear. "Do not play games with me, human. I know you scanned the core. I saw the power spike." He reached out and gripped Adam's shoulder. His claws dug slightly into the fabric of Adam's jumpsuit. "You people," Soren whispered, his voice trembling with a suppressed intensity. "You are chaotic. You are messy. You come to our world with your loud music and your jagged thoughts, and you think you can fix us." "We are just trying to help," Adam said, holding his ground. "You are breaking the song," Soren hissed. "The chorus must be pure. If Daisy takes the throne, if a mute leads the choir, the silence will kill us. The galaxy is a dark place, Adam. We need unity to survive." "She is a crack in the glass." Adam stared at him. He realized then that Soren wasn't doing this for power. He was doing it out of existential terror. He truly believed that Daisy was a fatal flaw in their species' design. "So you break her first?" Adam asked. Soren's grip tightened. "I am asking you to be a pragmatist. You are an engineer. You know that a faulty part must be replaced." He leaned in his muzzle inches from Adam's ear. "Tonight," Soren whispered, "when the ritual starts, The system will experience a hesitation. I want you to ensure that hesitation becomes a full stop. If you do this, if you help me save my people from her silence, I will ensure your contract is renewed. Perpetually. You can name your price. 2 million credits. 5 million. A ship of your own. And if I do not? Adam asked. Then I will point my finger at you, Soren said, pulling back. And I will tell the council that the human engineers sabotaged the node. You will not be deported, Adam. You will be erased. He patted Adam's shoulder, smoothing the fabric he had just crumpled. Think about it. You are good at breaking things. Just break the right thing. Soren turned and walked away, his robes swishing softly. Adam stood there, his heart pounding a frantic rhythm against his ribs. He felt sick. Adam! It was Eve's voice. She was standing by the fireplace, gesturing for him. She looked urgent. Adam took a step toward her, but a wall of gray fur blocked his path. It was the captain of the guard, one of Soren's loyalists. He stood with his arms crossed, a plasma rifle slung across his chest. The Chancellor has ordered a perimeter lockdown, the guard rumbled. No movement between zones until the ceremony begins. She is the Queen, Adam said. She is calling me. The Queen is under protective observation, the guard said, not moving an inch. Go to your station, engineer. Adam looked past the guard. Eve was staring at him, her eyes wide. She tried to step forward, but another guard stepped in her way. It was subtle, polite, but absolute. They were separated. The private talk was over. The coup had effectively happened. Soren controlled the room, the communication, and the narrative. Adam looked at Daisy. She was sitting on the ottoman again, her hands clasped tightly in her lap. She was watching him. She had seen Soren whisper to him. She had seen the threat. She knew. The grandfather clock in the corner chimed. It was midnight. The alignment was starting. The cabin lights dimmed. The floor began to hum with a deep subsonic vibration that rattled Adam's teeth. Outside, the aurora borealis exploded into activity, painting the snow in shifting sheets of green and violent violet. It is time, Soren announced, his voice booming through the room. Her Highness will now attempt to synchronize with the node. He said attempt with the confidence of a man who had already rigged the dice. Daisy stood up. She looked small in the center of the room. She looked terrified. She looked at Eve, who was being held back by protective guards. She looked at Lily, who was clutching Milo the drone like a teddy bear. Then she looked at Adam. Adam stood by the wall, his hand hovering over his toolkit. He felt the weight of the haptic gloves in his bag. He felt the weight of Soren's threat. 5 million credits. Or death. Daisy took a breath. She didn't move toward the center circle. Instead, she turned her body slightly facing Adam directly. The room went silent, waiting for her to kneel, to close her eyes, to try and fail to sing. She opened her mouth. Daisy never spoke in public. Her voice was a rumor. But now she spoke. It wasn't the melodic, multitonal speech of the Ailuri. It was raw. It was raspy. It was human. Run, she said. It was a command. Before Soren could frown, before the guards could raise their rifles, Daisy stomped her foot on the floorboard. Stomp, stomp, stomp. It wasn't a random stomp. It was a trigger code. The floor beneath Adam's feet didn't just vibrate, it vanished. With a grinding roar of ancient gears, the section of the floor Adam was standing on dropped away, revealing a dark, sliding chute that spiraled down into the darkness beneath the cabin's foundation. "Stop him!" Soren screamed. But gravity was faster than politics. Adam fell backward into the dark, the image of Daisy standing defiant in the center of the room, burning into his retinas as the hatch slammed shut above him. The slide was not a smooth pneumatic tube. It was a rough, terrifying descent through the hollowed-out throat of the planet, smelling of damp earth and ancient resin. Adam tumbled through the dark, his elbows banging against petrified wood, until the chute leveled out and spat him onto a floor of cold, polished obsidian. He groaned, rolling onto his back. Above him, The ceiling was a tangle of roots that glowed with a faint, bioluminescent pulse, like the exposed nerves of a giant. A second later, a soft whoosh echoed from the chute. Adam scrambled out of the way, just as Princess Daisy slid out landing with considerably more grace than he had. She rolled to her feet, her tunic dusty, but her expression fierce. "You jumped," Adam said, breathless. "You fell," Daisy corrected, brushing sawdust from her shoulder. "I followed. It seemed like the only direction that did not involve being arrested." Adam looked around. They were in a circular chamber far beneath the cabin. The walls were not made of the hybrid alloy found upstairs. They were made of raw, porous stone that seemed to absorb the light from their wrist comps. In the center sat a console that looked like it belonged in a museum of early spaceflight, bulky analog, and covered in physical switches. "Where are we?" Adam asked. The schematic did not show a sub-basement. "This is the Echo Room," Daisy whispered. She walked to the wall and placed her hand flat against the stone. "Before the chorus was fully integrated into our biology, this was the planetary listening post. The stone here is psychoreactive. It records vibrations. It holds memories." Adam approached the console. His engineer's eye spotted the modifications immediately. Spliced into the ancient copper wiring were modern, sleek fiber-optic cables. They were pulsing with a rhythm that did not match the heartbeat of the cabin. "Someone has been down here recently," Adam said. He pulled his scanner from his belt. "And they left the line open." He adjusted the frequency of his scanner. The air in the room suddenly thickened with a low, garbled sound. It was like hearing voices underwater. "The walls," Daisy said. "They are playing back the vibrations from the room above. The stone absorbs the sound and holds it for 48 hours. Adam fine-tuned the audio filter. The garbled noise sharpened into words. "Unfortunate necessity," a voice said. It was smooth, cultured, and chillingly familiar. Chancellor Soren. "The human is the perfect variable," a second voice replied. This one was distorted, metallic, and harsh. It did not sound Illyri. It sounded like the synthesized vocalizer of a heavy-world mercenary. "His biosignature is chaotic. We trigger the overload in the chorus, the system crashes, and the logs will show his clumsy human hands were at the controls." Daisy gasped. She stepped toward the wall, as if she could punch Soren through the rock. "And the princess?" the mercenary voice asked. "Collateral damage," Soren's voice replied, devoid of any emotion. "If the cabin rejects her, she loses her claim. If the feedback kills her, well, the galaxy is a dangerous place. We will mourn her as a martyr who was too weak for the crown." Daisy let out a sound that was half growl, half sob. She spun around, her claws fully extended, her eyes blazing with a violet fire. She started marching back toward the chute. "I will kill him," she hissed. "I will tear his throat out in front of the court." Adam lunged forward, catching her by the arm. "Daisy, stop!" She whipped around, snarling. "Did you not hear him? He plans to murder me and blame you. He is selling my planet to whoever that machine voice belongs to. Mercenaries." Adam said, his grip firm but gentle. "Interplanetary brokers. That is the noise I found in the code. But if you go up there now, screaming and clawing, you are just proving his point. He wants you to be the hysterical, broken princess. He wants drama." "I do not care about optics," Daisy shouted, though her voice cracked. "My mother is up there." "And your mother is alive because she is playing the long game," Adam said. He looked her in the eye. "You want to win, you do not need a scene. You need evidence. We have the recording now, but we need to know how he plans to trigger the overload." Daisy trembled, the adrenaline fighting with her logic. Slowly, she retracted her claws. She took a deep breath, her chest heaving. "Evidence," she repeated the word, tasting like ash. "Yes," Adam said. "We need to find the injection point, the place where he planted the virus." A clatter from the ventilation duct above them made them both jump. A grate popped off and fell to the floor with a clang. A pair of furry legs dangled from the opening, followed by the rest of Princess Lily. She dropped to the floor, landing in a crouch. She was holding a small, crystalline data spike in her teeth. "I believe," Lily said, spitting the spike into her hand, "that you are looking for this." "Lily," Daisy stared at her sister. "How did you—" "I got lost," Lily said with a grin that was far too sharp for a child. "I decided to get lost in the security server room. It is amazing what you can find when you are the invisible second child." She tossed the spike to Adam. "That is the encryption key Soren's head of security is using," Lily explained. "I lifted it from his pocket while I was crying loudly about being scared of the thunder. Adults really stop paying attention when a child starts wailing." Adam plugged the spike into his datapad. The screen flooded with red lines of code. "It is a silent resync command," Adam said, reading the data. "Just like we thought. But look at the timestamp. It is keyed to the aurora." "The lights?" Daisy asked. "The aurora borealis is not just light," Adam said, his fingers flying across the screen. "It is the visual manifestation of the magnetosphere. The chorus uses it as sheet music. When the colors shift, the frequency of the network shifts. Soren has set up a series of emitters in the forest. When the alignment begins, he is going to blast the sky with a counterfeit signal." "He is rewriting the sheet music while we are playing it," Daisy realized. Adam nodded. "The chorus will try to match the false lights. It will cause a dissonant spike large enough to fry the neural pathways of anyone connected to the core, including your mother." "And because I am not connected," Daisy whispered, "I will be the only one left standing, and it will look like I caused the surge." "Exactly," Adam said. He tapped a few keys and brought up a projection of the cabin. "We cannot stop the emitters," Adam said. "They are too far out in the forest. We cannot stop the ritual. Your mother is already starting the prep. Our only chance is to hijack the signal at the source. Here, in the cabin." "How?" Lily asked. "We create a filter," Adam said. He reached into his bag and pulled out the haptic gloves. "We use the third tongue. If Daisy and I can interface directly with the core down here, we can create a counter rhythm. We can act as a noise-canceling headphone for the planet." Daisy looked at the gloves. She looked at Adam. The fear was still there, but something else was overriding it. Determination. "Show me," she said. For the next 20 minutes, the echo room was silent, except for the rhythmic tap-tap-tap of fingers on sensors. Adam and Daisy stood facing each other, the console between them. They were sweating. The mental load of translating complex engineering commands into a binary rhythm was exhausting. "Faster," Adam said. "The signal drift is going to be rapid. You need to anticipate the shift." Daisy nodded. Her eyes were locked on his. She wasn't looking at his hands. She was feeling the vibration through the floor and the subtle air pressure changes from his movements. Tap, tap slide, double tap, frequency, blue, locked. "Good," Adam said. Again. They moved in perfect unison. It was a dance of pure data, stripped of the emotional baggage of the chorus. It was intimate in a way Adam had not expected. In the Alluri culture, sharing thoughts was commonplace, but it was a chaotic flood. This specific targeted communication felt like a secret, whispered in a crowded room. They finished a complex sequence, locking the firewall into place. Adam looked up. Daisy was leaning over the console, her face inches from his. Her pupils were dilated. The bioluminescent roots on the ceiling cast a soft, pulsing glow on her silver fur. The adrenaline of the chase and the intimacy of the synchronization crashed together. The air between them felt electric, static, charged. "You are," Daisy whispered, her voice rough, remarkably loud for a human. "And you," Adam replied, his voice dropping an octave, "are remarkably hearing." She leaned in closer. Adam didn't pull away. He forgot about the protocol. He forgot about the two distinct species. He just saw her. Temperature rising, a monotonous voice declared from Lily's pocket. They sprang apart. Lily sighed, pulling a small remote from her sash. It was connected to Milo, who was currently monitoring the vents. Milo says the ambient heat in the room spiked. Also, he says you two are disgusting and he would prefer to go back to guarding the door. Adam cleared his throat, his face burning. Right. The plan. We stick to the plan. Suddenly, the speakers on the wall crackled. This time, it wasn't a recording. It was a live broadcast. Contractor Adam, Soren's voice echoed through the stone chamber. And Princess Daisy, and the little stowaway. Adam froze. He looked at the camera lens hidden in the corner of the ceiling. It was active. A red light blinked lazily. I see you found the old playroom, Soren continued. He sounded amused. Did you really think I would leave the core undefended? The Echo Room has been under my surveillance for 6 months. Daisy grabbed the console, her knuckles white. Soren, you are a traitor to the bloodline. I am a gardener, Soren replied calmly. Pruning the dead branches. I could send my guards down there to drag you out. I could fill that room with neurogas. But I think I will let you watch. Watch what? Adam demanded. The end of your error, Soren said. Stay down there. Play with your buttons. Try to stop the signal. It will not matter. The aurora is already shifting. The alignment has begun. The connection cut with a sharp click. He is baiting us, Lily said, her ears flattening. He wants us to stay here. Because he knows we can't stop it from down here, Adam realized. He let us build the filter because he knows it is too weak. We are trying to shout down a hurricane with a whisper. Adam looked at the console, then at the ceiling. We cannot do this from the basement, Adam said. We need to be in the main room. We need to be on the circle. If we go up there, Daisy said, he will arrest us. Not if the ritual has started, Adam said. It is a holy law, right? Once the crown line opens, no violence is permitted within the circle. If we can get into the circle before he stops us, we have sanctuary. That is a very thin technicality, Lily pointed out. It is all we have, Adam said. He looked at Daisy. You have to take the throne, Daisy. Not later. Tonight. I cannot, Daisy said, her voice small. The system will reject me. You said it yourself. The system will reject Princess Daisy, Adam said. He reached out and took her hand. Her actual hand, not the glove. But it will not reject us. Not if we change the input language. He squeezed her hand. Do not try to sing their song, Adam said intensely. Make them listen to yours. Daisy looked at him. For a moment he saw the terrified girl who hid in the library. Then he saw something else. He saw the daughter of a queen who could crush titanium with her claws. Lily, Daisy said, turning to her sister. Can you override the door locks from here? I can blow them, Lily said cheerfully. Do it, Daisy commanded. Adam, get the gloves. The ascent was not stealthy. Lily triggered a localized pressure spike in the hydraulic system, blowing the hatch off its hinges with a deafening boom. Smoke filled the hallway as Adam and Daisy sprinted from the hidden passage back toward the main cabin. They burst into the main room just as the grandfather clock struck the quarter hour. The scene before them was a tableau of terrifying beauty. The roof of the cabin had retracted, another feature Adam had not seen in the blueprints. The night sky was fully visible, dominated by an aurora borealis that was wrong. The lights were not flowing. They were jerking, spasming in jagged lines of sickly green and bruised purple. In the center of the room, Queen Eve stood on a raised dais of inlaid silver. Her eyes were rolled back, glowing with white light. She was screaming silently, her body rigid, as the corrupted chorus slammed into her mind. Soren stood at the edge of the circle, watching with a look of feigned concern. His guards had their weapons raised, but they were hesitating. The energy in the room was so dense, It felt like walking through water. "Mother!" Daisy screamed. She ran toward the circle. "Halt!" Soren shouted, dropping the pretense. "Guards, secure the intruder." 2 guards moved to intercept her. Adam didn't think. He didn't calculate. He pulled a flash grenade from his belt, a standard piece of kit for scaring off wildlife during repairs, and bowled it across the floor. Bang! A blinding flash of white light filled the room. The guards stumbled back blinded. "Go!" Adam roared. Daisy didn't stop. She dove past the guards, sliding across the polished floor and scrambling up onto the dais. Soren drew a pistol, a sleek, silver weapon. He aimed it at Daisy's back. Adam moved. He wasn't a soldier. He was an engineer. But he knew geometry. He threw his heavy toolkit with all the force he could muster. It wasn't aimed at Soren. It was aimed at the chandelier above him. The heavy iron fixture swung, the chain snapping. It didn't hit Soren, but it crashed down between him and the dais, shattering the floorboards and sending a cloud of debris into the air. Soren flinched his shot, going wild and scorching the wall. Adam sprinted through the dust and vaulted onto the dais, landing back to back with Daisy. "Sanctuary!" Adam yelled, his voice cracking. "We are on the circle by the law of the first song. We claim the right of challenge." The room went deadly silent. The guards lowered their weapons, looking confused. They looked at Soren. Soren's face twisted. He looked at the Queen, who was shaking violently, fighting the seizure induced by the jamming signal. "There is no challenge here," Soren snarled. "Only a terrorist attack. Kill them." "No." The voice came from everywhere. It wasn't the Queen. Daisy stood up. She raised her gloved hands. She wasn't looking at Soren. She was looking at the aurora above. She clapped her hands together. A single, thunderous impact. Clap. The sound was amplified by the haptic sensors fed into Adam's datapad and blasted out through the cabin's internal speakers at maximum volume. Clap, clap, pause, clap. It was a rhythm, simple, primal. The Queen gasped, her eyes snapping open. She fell to her knees, but she didn't collapse. She looked at Daisy. "Adam," Daisy said, her voice steady. "Connect me." Adam jammed his interface cable into the port on the dais. Connected. "You have the floor, Your Highness." Daisy closed her eyes. She didn't try to access the chorus. She blocked it out. She focused on the vibration of the floor, the beat of Adam's heart next to her, the rhythm of her own blood. She began to tap. It wasn't random. She was playing the counter frequency they had built in the basement. Tap, tap, slide. Thump. The sound reverberated through the cabin. It hit the walls, the hybrid wood and alloy walls that remembered everything. The cabin began to hum. Outside, the aurora flickered. The jagged lines smoothed out for a second, then jagged again. "She is jamming the jammer," Soren screamed. "Shoot her." "That is an order." "If you shoot," Adam shouted, stepping in front of Daisy, "you hit the node. You will blow this entire mountain off the map." It was a bluff, mostly. But the guards didn't know that. They froze. Daisy didn't stop. Her rhythm got faster, more complex. She was weaving a net of sound. And then she did something impossible. She grabbed Adam's hand. "Together," she said. Adam nodded. He raised his free hand and joined the rhythm. Human and alluri, flesh and metal. The beat synced. The cabin amplified it. It wasn't just a sound anymore. It was a command. Reset, reset, reset. The floorboards groaned. The light in the fireplace turned from violet to a blinding pure gold. Above them, the sky screamed. The artificial emitters in the forest blew out in a cascade of sparks. Unable to handle the feedback loop Daisy was forcing back down the line. The aurora snapped. The sickly green vanished, replaced by a curtain of deep, royal indigo that washed over the mountains like a healing wave. The Queen took a deep, shuddering breath. The seizure stopped. Soren stood amidst the wreckage of his plan, his gun hanging uselessly at his side. He stared at Daisy. Not with hatred, but with a sudden dawning horror. He realized what had just happened. She hadn't just fixed the signal. She had changed the song. Daisy lowered her hands. The silence that followed was absolute. She looked down at Soren, her chest heaving, her hand still gripping Adam's. "The alignment is complete," she said. Her voice was quiet, but in the acoustic perfection of the cabin, it sounded like a gavel strike. "And the system accepts." Adam looked at her. Her fur was standing on end, sparking with static. She looked magnificent. She didn't need him to save her. She just needed him to help her be heard. "Adam," she whispered, squeezing his hand so hard it hurt. "Yeah, I think we just started a revolution," she said. "Or a war." "Probably both," Adam said, looking at Soren's face. "Definitely both." The heavy locks of the north cabin did not click shut. They slammed home with the sound of a guillotine blade dropping. The noise echoed through the grand room, bouncing off the hybrid timber walls and vibrating in the hollow of Adam's chest. The illusion of a diplomatic meeting evaporated instantly. The warm, amber light of the hearth seemed to turn cold, filtered through the sudden realization that the air supply had just been cut off from the outside world. The windows, previously offering a view of the aurora-drenched snow, were now obscured by heavy blast shutters that slid down from the eaves like iron eyelids. "Lockdown initiated," the cabin's automated voice announced, though it sounded sluggish, drugged by the interference codes pulsing through the walls. "Quarantine protocol active. No exit authorized." Adam stood back to back with Daisy on the raised dais. His hand was still gripping hers, their pulse rates syncing in a frantic rhythm that had nothing to do with the chorus and everything to do with survival. Below them, the room had transformed into a standoff. Chancellor Soren did not look like a panicked politician anymore. He stood near the heavy oak table, his silhouette framed by the sparks flying from the overloaded console. He looked like a man who had finally decided to stop pretending he followed the rules. "A quarantine," Soren said, his voice calm, amplified by the sudden acoustic seal of the room. "How unfortunate. It seems the human interference has triggered a biological containment failsafe. We are trapped until the system purges the contagion." "You triggered it," Daisy accused, her voice low and dangerous. She did not shout, she projected. "You hold the override key." "I hold the future," Soren corrected. He gestured to the 6 guards who had fanned out around the perimeter of the room. They were not pointing their weapons at the floor anymore. The muzzles of their plasma rifles were leveled at the dais. "And the future does not include genetic errors." Adam looked at the console near his feet. The readout was screaming in red text. The core wasn't just locked, it was building up a charge. "He is not just locking us in," Adam whispered to Daisy, keeping his eyes on the guards. "The core temperature is rising. He has initiated a thermal sterilization cycle. He is going to cook the room and blame it on a system crash." "Can you stop it?" Daisy asked. "I need to get to the main interface," Adam said, glancing at the panel behind Soren, "which is currently behind a wall of guys with guns." "Then we move the wall," Daisy said. She didn't wait. She raised her right hand, fingers splayed. To the guards it looked like a gesture of surrender. To Adam, and to the small figure crouching in the shadows of the ventilation grate, it was a command. Thumb tuck, index flick, palm out, blind, flank, disorient. From the ceiling, Milo the drone dropped like a stone. He didn't hover. He simply fell, a dead weight of titanium and attitude. At the last second, his anti-grav thrusters fired in a chaotic burst, spinning him into a blur of motion. He collided with a tray of silver tea service on the side table, sending metal platters and scalding liquid flying into the faces of the 2 guards on the left. "My sensors indicate a high probability of burns," Milo's voice deadpanned as he ricocheted off a helmet. "Apologies. I am a clumsy domestic appliance." In the confusion, Lily bolted from her hiding spot. She didn't run away. She ran low, sliding across the polished floor like a hockey puck, heading straight for the sub-panel near the kitchen. Fire! Soren screamed, losing his composure. A bolt of blue plasma sizzled through the air, scorching the wood of the dais, inches from Adam's hip. The smell of ozone and burnt varnish filled the nose. "Get down!" Adam roared, shoving Daisy behind the heavy throne chair on the dais. He didn't take cover himself. Instead, he scrambled for the interface port on the dais floor. He jammed his datapad into the socket, his fingers flying across the glass screen. Come on," he muttered. "Talk to me, you stubborn antique." The screen flickered. The code that scrolled past wasn't standard Ailuri syntax. It was a mess, a violent collision of the original human operating system and Soren's parasitic virus. Adam found the purge command. It was labeled innocuously, System Refresh. "He is not just wiping the logs," Adam shouted, over the noise of plasma fire. "Daisy, the reset. It is targeted." "Targeted how?" Daisy yelled back. She was peeking around the chair, throwing a heavy crystal decanter at a guard who was trying to flank them. "It is an identity scrub," Adam said, his stomach dropping. "The pulse is calibrated to locate your specific biofrequency in the local directory and delete the admin privileges associated with it. If this goes off, the cabin won't just lock you out. It will recognize you as an intruder. The internal defenses will activate against you." "He wants the house to kill me," Daisy realized, her face pale. "I have to rewrite the target definition," Adam said. "I have to trick it into thinking you are. I do not know a piece of furniture, anything but a user." He tapped the execute command. Zap. A shockwave of white-hot pain slammed into Adam's skull. It wasn't an electric shock. It was a neural feedback spike. It felt like someone had driven a railroad spike through his temple and into his memories. Adam screamed, arching back his vision, going white. He tasted copper. The datapad flew from his hand. "Adam!" Daisy scrambled to him, grabbing his shoulders. "Adam!" He gasped, air rushing back into his lungs. His hands were shaking uncontrollably. "I am okay. It is a neural trap. Soren put a feedback loop on the edit function. If anyone tries to change the code, it fries their synapses." "Don't touch it again," Daisy ordered, her eyes filled with tears. "I have to," Adam wheezed, wiping blood from his nose. "It is at 80%. If it hits 100, you are dead." Across the room, the firefight was becoming desperate. Queen Eve had not taken cover. She stood in the open, her body glowing with a faint, terrifying aura of bioelectric energy. She was catching plasma bolts with her bare hands, or rather with the localized kinetic shields generated by her royal jewelry. But the shields were flickering. She was exhausted from the earlier seizure. "Surrender, Eve!" Soren shouted. He was safe behind the heavy oak table, using it as a barricade. "Abdicate the succession, sign the order passing the regency to the council, and I will stop the purge." "I would rather see this forest burn than hand it to a butcher," Eve roared back. Her voice was not the voice of a diplomat. It was the voice of an apex predator. One of the guards, seeing the Queen's shield waver, took aim. Not at her arm or her leg, at her chest. Adam saw it. The geometry of the shot was clear in his engineer's mind. The angle, the timing. Eve's shield was down for a recharge cycle. She wouldn't be able to stop it. If Eve died, Daisy would be left alone. A specific kind of alone that Adam knew well, the kind where the world didn't just feel empty, it felt hostile. Daisy would be crushed by the political machine before her mother's body was cold. Adam didn't think about his contract. He didn't think about his safety protocols. He moved. He lunged off the dais, throwing himself into the trajectory of the bolt. It hit him in the left shoulder. It didn't feel like a burn. It felt like being hit by a freight train made of ice. The impact spun him around in the air, and he crashed hard onto the floorboards. "Adam!" Lily shrieked from across the room. Adam groaned, trying to push himself up. His left arm was useless, a dead weight of agony. He looked up to see Eve staring at him. Her eyes were wide, the vertical slits of her pupils blown round with shock. "You," Eve stammered. "You took the shot." You are the shield, Adam gritted out, forcing himself to his knees. If you fall, she has no cover. He nodded toward Daisy. Eve looked at her daughter, then back at the human bleeding on her floor. The icy, regal mask cracked. For a second, she wasn't a queen. She was a mother, looking at the only person who had ever jumped in front of a bullet for her family without being paid to do it. "Cover him!" Eve screamed. It was a command that shook the dust from the rafters. She raised her hands, and the floorboards around Adam erupted. Splinters of wood flew up, forming a temporary barricade. She was manipulating the cabin's physical structure through sheer will, forcing the very wood to obey her. Daisy was at Adam's side in an instant, dragging him back behind the cover of the dais. "You idiot!" she sobbed, ripping a strip of fabric from her tunic to bind his shoulder. "You absolute catastrophic idiot. You are an engineer. You fix toasters. You do not jump in front of plasma." It was a calculated risk, Adam slurred, fighting the darkness at the edge of his vision. Variable outcome favorable. "I am going to kill you myself if you die," Lily's voice came over their earpieces. She sounded breathless. "I mean it, Adam. If you die, I have to be the one to comfort Daisy, and I do not have time for that emotional labor. I am busy hacking a door." "Working on it," Adam whispered. The firing stopped. A heavy, oppressive silence fell over the room. "Adam," Soren's voice called out. "Engineer Adam, can you hear me?" Adam leaned his head back against the wood. "I can hear you. You are loud." "You are hurt," Soren said. His voice had changed. It was no longer commanding. It was negotiating. "That wound will cauterize, but the nerve damage will be permanent without treatment. Human biology is so fragile." "Get to the point," Adam said. "The point is simple," Soren said. "I do not want to kill you. You are a valuable asset. You understand this hybrid technology better than anyone. I have a proposition." "I am listening," Adam said, signaling Daisy to keep scanning the room. "Help me rewrite the core," Soren said. "Finish the purge. Remove the error." Daisy froze, her hand hovering over Adam's bandage. "If you do this," Soren continued, "I will guarantee your safety. I will double your contract. I will give you a full medical team. And I will spare the princess." Adam looked at Daisy. Her eyes were locked on his. She didn't shake her head. She didn't beg. She just waited. "Spare her how?" Adam asked. "She will live," Soren said. "She will retain her title. She will live here in the cabin, protected, safe, silent, a figurehead, a symbol of the old ways. But she will not rule. She will not touch the chorus. She will be a pet." The word hung in the air, toxic and heavy. "You save her life," Soren said softly. "You just have to take away her voice. It is a fair trade, is it not? Survival for silence." Adam looked at Daisy. He saw the girl who had sat in the library tapping rhythms on a book because she was desperate to be heard. He saw the woman who had stood on the dais and jammed a planetary signal with a clap of her hands. To save her by silencing her wasn't saving her. It was killing the part of her that mattered most. "Hey, Soren," Adam called out. His voice was weak but steady. "Yes, my contract," Adam said. "It has a clause about ethical termination. And I think," Adam said, struggling to stand up with Daisy's help, "that turning a person into a decoration violates the terms of service. I do not fix things by breaking them, and I definitely do not save people by erasing who they are." "A foolish choice," Soren sighed. "Then you will die with the error." "Daisy," Adam whispered, "the third tongue, now." Daisy nodded. She didn't need to be told twice. She turned to the room not as a victim, but as a commander. She raised her gloved hands. Clap, stomp, snap, clap, Lily, bypass, now. Across the room, Lily grinned. She had pried open the maintenance panel of the kitchen dumbwaiter. Inside was a bundle of ancient dusty wires, the original human-built backup circuit that Soren's digital map hadn't shown him because it wasn't digital. It was analog. "Eat copper, you fascist," Lily whispered. She jammed her conductive bracelet into the wires, shorting the circuit. Ka-chunk. The sound was massive mechanical. The blast shutters on the windows didn't open. Instead, the floor of the cabin dropped 6 inches. "What did you do?" Soren screamed, grabbing the table for balance. "I engaged the flight stabilizers," Lily yelled back. "What? This isn't just a cabin," Adam laughed, the pain in his shoulder flaring. "I told you, Soren, it is a hull. It is the bridge of a colony ship," the cabin groaned. The ancient gyroscopes beneath the foundation, dormant for 500 years, began to spin up. The entire structure wasn't taking off. The engines were long dead. But the defensive systems were waking up. And the defensive systems of a Voyager-class colony ship were designed to repel hostile boarders. "Warning!" The automated voice boomed clear and crisp this time. "Intruder alert. Unauthorized weapons detected in the command deck. Initiating pacification protocol." Gravity in the room shifted. The artificial gravity plates in the floor, usually set to a comfortable 1G, suddenly tilted. The guards on the right side of the room slid helplessly toward the wall, their boots losing traction. Soren scrambled to hold onto the table, his dignity vanishing as he clawed at the wood. "Now!" Eve shouted. She didn't need a signal. She needed an opening. With the guards off balance, Eve moved. She didn't run. She flowed. She crossed the room in 3 strides, grabbing a sliding guard by his tactical vest and throwing him into his partner. "Daisy," Eve called out, her voice cutting through the chaos. "The consort law." Daisy looked at her mother. "What?" "The protocol," Eve yelled, ducking a stray laser blast. "Why do you think he is so afraid of you standing with a human? It is not just prejudice. It is the law of unification." Eve grabbed a heavy candelabra and swung it, knocking a rifle out of a guard's hands. "If the heir is recognized by the cabin," Eve shouted, "and chooses a partner of a different origin within the circle, that partner is not just a spouse. They become a living treaty. A consort represents a binding of worlds." Adam stared at Eve. "Wait, you mean—" "He is not afraid of a glitch," Eve shouted, looking at Soren. "He is afraid of a union. If you claim him, Daisy, you do not just get a boyfriend. You unify the human contractors and the Aeluri traditionalists under one banner. You end his political platform instantly." Adam looked at Daisy. "I thought we were just holding hands." "Apparently we were engaging in high-level diplomatic marriage rituals," Daisy shouted back, her face flushing red beneath her fur. "I did not know." "Well," Adam said, grinning despite the blood running down his arm, "it explains why the door likes me." The room shook violently. The aurora outside the windows was flashing red and gold, the colors of emergency and royalty. The chorus was screaming a high-pitched whine that vibrated the teeth. Soren managed to pull himself upright against the doorframe. He looked at the chaos. He looked at Eve, who was dismantling his security team with terrifying efficiency. He looked at Daisy, and Adam standing on the dais, united the cabin, literally warping reality to protect them. He realized he had lost the room, but he hadn't lost the war. "This is not over!" Soren screamed. He pulled a small silver device from his robe, a portable transmitter. "Stop him!" Adam yelled. "He has a remote uplink." Soren didn't aim the device at them. He smashed it against the control panel by the door. "If I cannot control the narrative from here," Soren hissed, "I will control it from the sky." The door behind him blew open, not by his command, but by a manual override he had rigged. The wind howled in carrying snow and ice. "Computer," Soren shouted. "Broadcast emergency beacon code. Black alien insurgency in the royal sector. The humans have taken the Queen hostage." He looked at Adam one last time. "You wanted to be a hero engineer. Congratulations. You are now the villain of the story." Soren turned and vanished into the snowstorm, his personal gravity skiff waiting just outside. "He is getting away!" Lily yelled, trying to run to the door, but the shifting gravity threw her back. "Let him go," Eve said, breathing hard. She stood amidst the unconscious bodies of the guards. "We cannot chase him. Not while the core is still critical." Adam looked at the console. The purge bar had stopped at 99%. It was frozen. Daisy was holding the haptic connection, her hand clamped over the port. She was trembling. "I stopped it," she gasped. "But I cannot hold it forever. The logic is fighting me." "You do not have to hold it," Adam said. He limped over to her. He placed his good hand over hers. "We just have to finish the sentence." "What sentence?" "The consort law," Adam said. "If the cabin recognizes a union, it overwrites the individual security protocols. It creates a new admin class." He looked at her. "You have to claim me, officially, to the system." Daisy looked at him. There was no hesitation in her eyes anymore. No fear of being the broken princess. "System," Daisy said, her voice clear. "Recognize contractor Adam." "Identity confirmed," the computer buzzed. "Status unauthorized human." "Correction," Daisy said. She tapped a rhythm on the console. Tap, tap, hold. "Status update," she commanded. "Consort of the third tongue. Guardian of the anchor. And..." She looked at Adam, a small smile touching her lips. "My partner." The console beeped. A soft, pleasing chime that sounded like a bell in a snowstorm. "Identity updated. Welcome, Consort Adam. Purge cancelled. Unification protocol engaged." The red lights in the room turned to a soft, pulsing blue. The gravity stabilized. The blast shutters retracted, revealing the dawn breaking over the mountains. But it wasn't a peaceful dawn. In the distance across the valley, a massive signal flare shot up from Soren's retreating ship. It painted the sky in the harsh red of a war declaration. "He sent the signal," Eve said, walking to the window. Her face was grim. "By noon, half the planet will think we are traitors. The other half will be confused." "Then we have until noon," Adam said, clutching his shoulder, "to tell them the truth." "We do not have a transmitter strong enough," Lily said, kicking a groaning guard in the shin. "No," Daisy said. She stepped up to the window, standing next to her mother and Adam. She looked out at the glowing forest, at the world that had tried to silence her. "We do not need a transmitter," Daisy said. "We have the chorus. And now I know how to make it listen." She looked at Adam. "Ready for the night shift?" she asked. Adam smiled, though he felt like he was about to pass out. "Princess, I am on overtime." The sun did not rise over the north cabin. It bled into existence. The dawn on Iluri was usually a spectacle of soft violets and pinks, but today, the light hitting the snow-crusted trees was harsh and gray, filtered through the smoke of the damaged emitters in the forest. Inside the cabin, the adrenaline of the battle had curdled into a cold, sharp clarity. Adam sat on the edge of the raised dais, his left arm bound tight against his chest. The pain was a dull throb now pushed to the background by a much more urgent problem. Through the blast-shattered window, he could see them. They were not soldiers. They were worse. Hovering just above the tree line was a fleet of news drones, their camera lenses zooming in, like the compound eyes of insects. Behind them, Chancellor Soren's command ship floated a sleek shark of silver metal. Giant, holographic projectors were already springing to life on the ship's hull, casting Soren's face composed, grave, and terrified for the nation against the morning sky. "He is not attacking," Adam said, his voice raspy. "He is broadcasting." "He is framing the narrative," Queen Eve said. She stood by the fireplace, adjusting her armor. The blackened scorch mark on her shoulder was the only sign she had been fighting for her life an hour ago. Now she was not a warrior. She was a politician preparing for a debate on the edge of a cliff. "Soren knows he cannot take the cabin by force without destroying the node." So he will take it by public opinion. He will paint us as hostages and himself as the liberator. Look, Lily said, pointing at the projection. Soren's voice boomed across the clearing, amplified by speakers that shook the snow from the trees. Citizens of the chorus, Soren intoned his face, a mask of tragic duty. It is with a heavy heart that I report a catastrophe at the northern anchor. The ritual of alignment has been sabotaged. Foreign agents led by the human contractor, known as Adam, have seized the Queen. They have corrupted the Princess Daisy, using her disability to confuse the system. They threaten to sever our connection to the planet. Adam let out a dry laugh. He is good. I will give him that. He took everything we did and inverted it. He is playing on their fear, Daisy said. She stood next to Adam, pulling on a fresh pair of haptic gloves. Her face was set in stone. The chorus is their safety. He is telling them I am the one cutting the wire. We need to cut his mic, Lily suggested, holding up a pair of wire cutters. No, Adam said, struggling to his feet. If we cut the feed, we look guilty. We look like we are hiding. We do not silence him. He looked at Daisy. We harmonize over him. Harmonize? Eve asked. It is a signal engineering principle, Adam explained. When you have a noise signal, you cannot stop, you do not block it. You inject a carrier wave into the gaps. You ride his own frequency. He looked at the main console of the cabin. It was still smoking slightly, but the core was humming with the steady, golden light of the third tongue. Soren is broadcasting on the emergency bands, Adam said. But the cabin controls the atmospheric ionization. We can turn the air itself into a screen. You want to project the truth? Daisy asked. I want to project the data, Adam corrected. Soren can lie with words, but he cannot lie with math. Not when the entire planet can see the equations. We need a distraction, Adam added. I need 3 minutes to configure the projection arrays. Someone needs to go out there and make Soren look at the wrong hand. Lily stepped forward. She smoothed her tunic messy with grease and dust. She looked at her reflection in a silver platter. She messed up her fur, making herself look smaller, more pathetic. I am 12 years old, Lily said, her voice dropping into a register of pure, terrifying innocence. And I am very, very scared of the big bad men with guns, she winked at Adam. 3 minutes. I will give you 5. The front door of the cabin creaked open. The cameras swiveled instantly. Soren, floating on his command deck, paused mid-sentence. Lily stumbled out onto the porch. She looked tiny against the massive logs of the cabin. She hugged herself, shivering in the cold morning air. Please, she cried out, her voice picked up by every microphone in the clearing. Please stop. They are fighting inside. I am scared. Soren's expression softened into a rehearsed look of benevolence. Princess Lily, do not be afraid. Walk to the ship. We will protect you. But the human, Lily wailed, taking a step down the stairs. He has a calculator and he is dividing by 0. It was nonsense, but it was captivating nonsense. The news drones zoomed in on her tear-streaked face. Soren leaned forward, sensing a propaganda victory. Milo, Adam whispered into his comms. Now. From the roof of the cabin, the drone cat dropped. But this time, he didn't attack. He activated a high-intensity strobe light, flashing in a pattern that looked like a weapon charging up. Threat detected, Milo's synthesized voice roared. Targeting camera optics, say cheese. The drones scattered their collision avoidance algorithms, panicking. The image of Soren on the sky flickered and distorted. Now, Adam shouted. Inside the cabin, Daisy slammed her hands onto the haptic pads. Thump, thump slide, snap. The cabin roared. It wasn't a sound of wood or stone. It was the sound of the planet taking a deep breath. From the roof of the cabin, a beam of pure white light shot straight up into the morning sky. It hit the lingering ionization layer of the atmosphere and spread out, forming a massive, flat sheet of light. It was a screen, 10 miles wide. "What is that?" Soren screamed, shielding his eyes. "It is the log file," Daisy whispered from inside the cabin. On the sky, giant scrolling lines of text appeared. They weren't in Ailuri script. They weren't in human English. They were raw binary, the universal language of the chorus. And highlighted in burning red were the stitches, the jagged, clumsy code insertions that Soren had purchased from the black market. "Citizens of Ailuri," Eve's voice boomed. The queen stepped out onto the porch, right behind Lily. She was not wearing her ceremonial robes. She was wearing her battle-damaged armor. She looked every inch the warrior monarch. "You are looking at the sky," Eve said, her voice amplified by the cabin systems. "Do not listen to me. Do not listen to the Chancellor. Read the sky," she pointed up. "Those red lines are foreign code," Eve declared. "They are viral insertions designed to cause a failure in the alignment. They were purchased 3 months ago. The transaction signature belongs to a shell company registered to the Ministry of Infrastructure." Soren's face on the holographic projection went pale. He tried to cut the feed, but his engineers were frantically shaking their heads. The signal wasn't coming from their ship. It was coming from the planet itself. "This is a trick," Soren shouted, his voice cracking. "The human is manipulating the visuals. It is a deep fake." "Then let us test it," a new voice cut in. Daisy walked out. She didn't stumble. She didn't look down. She walked out of the cabin door and stood next to her mother. She wore the haptic gloves, the wires trailing back into the house like umbilical cords. "Chancellor," Daisy said. Her voice was not loud, but it was crystal clear. "You claim I am incompatible. You claim I cannot hear the chorus. You are deaf to the soul of our people," Soren yelled, trying to regain control. "You are a broken vessel." "Then why?" Daisy asked, raising her hands. "Does the cabin answer me?" She clapped her hands. Clap. The massive screen in the sky rippled. The red lines of code shattered, dissolving into golden dust. Clap. Clap. The aurora borealis, which had been fading with the dawn, suddenly flared back to life. But it wasn't the chaotic mess of the night before. It snapped into a perfect geometric grid. "I do not need to hear the music to read the sheet music," Daisy said. "I do not need your pity, Chancellor. And I do not need the system to tolerate me. I need the system to be right." She turned her palms upward. "Celine," Daisy commanded, "release the ledger." Miles away in the Royal Library, the archivist hit a single key. On the sky screen, the binary code was replaced by a stream of financial documents, bank transfers, communication logs, recordings of Soren negotiating with the mercenaries. "I paid you for a clean crash," Soren's voice from the recording echoed across the valley. "I want the princess erased, not just blocked." The silence that fell over the forest was absolute. The news drones stopped buzzing. The soldiers on Soren's ship lowered their weapons. Soren stood alone on his command deck. The narrative had not just slipped from his grasp. It had turned around and strangled him. He looked down at the cabin. He looked at Adam, who had limped out to stand in the shadow of the doorframe. Soren's eyes narrowed. He had one card left to play. The card of pure xenophobic spite. "You think this proves anything?" Soren sneered, his voice shaking with rage. "So, you found my contingency plans. Yes, I tried to save the planet from a weak heir. But ask yourselves who gave her the technology to do this. Who built that machine she is wearing?" He pointed a shaking finger at Adam. "Him!" Soren screamed. "The human contractor, Adam. Do you know who he really is? Do you think he is just a repairman?" Adam froze. His heart skipped a beat, then hammered against his ribs like a trapped bird. "He is not here to fix the comms," Soren shouted. "He is a saboteur. Look at his service record. Look at the gaps. He was discharged from the Earth Signal Corps for cognitive dissonance instability. He is a walking jammer. He was sent here to disrupt us from the inside." Daisy turned to look at Adam. Her eyes were wide, confused. "Adam." Adam didn't speak. He couldn't. His throat felt like it was filled with glass. "He is a poison," Soren yelled. "He is a human weapon designed to break synchronization, and now he has infected the princess." Adam gripped the doorframe. He wanted to shout back. He wanted to deny it. But the words died on his tongue. Because Soren wasn't entirely lying. Eve stepped forward. She didn't look at Adam. She looked at Soren. "Chancellor," Eve said, her voice ice-cold, "you are under arrest for high treason." "You cannot arrest me," Soren shouted. "I am the High Minister. I demand." "You demand nothing," Eve said. "Guards, secure him." On Soren's own ship, his personal guard hesitated. Then slowly, the captain of the guard turned toward the Chancellor. "I am sorry, sir," the captain said, "but the sky does not lie." Two guards grabbed Soren by the arms. He struggled, screaming obscenities, accusing Adam, accusing the Queen, until they dragged him off the deck and the feed cut to black. The silence returned. But it was different now. It was heavy. Daisy looked at Adam. "What did he mean about the gaps in your record?" "Later," Eve said sharply. "The sun is fully up. The alignment is not finished until the succession is confirmed. We must finish the ritual." She turned to Daisy. "Are you ready?" Daisy looked at Adam one last time, then nodded. "I am ready." "Then open the crown line," Eve commanded. Daisy took a deep breath. She stepped back into the cabin, Adam and Eve following. The cameras, now broadcasting a respectful silent feed, hovered at the windows. Daisy stood in the center of the room on the exact spot where the floor had opened earlier. She raised her hands. She didn't tap a rhythm of war this time. She tapped a rhythm of home. Heartbeat, heartbeat, open. The floorboards of the cabin began to glow. A line of pure white light ignited at the back of the room, ran under the table, split around the dais, and shot out the front door, racing across the snow like a fuse. It was the crown line, the physical manifestation of the node's acceptance. Usually, the crown line would pulse with the song of the chorus. Today, it pulsed with a rhythm. Thump, 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 thump. It was a heartbeat. "The node accepts," Eve whispered, sounding awestruck. "It has recalibrated the entire planetary network to a tactile frequency. Daisy, you did not just translate the song. You taught the planet how to listen." Eve walked over to the mantelpiece. She picked up a simple circlet of woven silver and iridium. It wasn't a heavy jeweled crown. It was functional. It was an antenna. She walked back to Daisy. Daisy knelt. Her head was bowed, her silver fur catching the morning light. Eve raised the circlet. For a moment, she wasn't the queen. She was just a mother who had almost lost everything. She leaned down, bringing her lips close to Daisy's ear. "Do not tremble," Eve whispered, her voice cracking slightly. "You are making me tremble." Daisy let out a wet, choked laugh. Eve placed the circlet on Daisy's head. The moment the metal touched her fur, a shockwave of light pulsed out from the cabin. It wasn't violent. It was warm. It washed over the forest, over the waiting ships, over the entire planet. Every Iluri on the planet felt it. It wasn't a song. It was a sensation, a feeling of solid ground, of stability, of a hand holding another hand. Daisy stood up. She turned to the open door, to the cameras that were broadcasting her face to billions. She raised her hands, still wearing the bulky, ugly engineering gloves. "My people," Daisy said. She didn't shout. The cabin amplified her voice, carrying it on the wind. "For centuries we have believed that to lead one must sing the loudest." She looked at her hands. "But a choir that cannot hear the silence is just noise. Today, we change the tune." She looked straight into the lens of the nearest drone. "I declare the third tongue, the language of touch, of sight, of binary rhythm, to be an official language of the Iluri court. No longer will those who cannot connect be cast out. We will build bridges, not walls." She paused. She took a breath. She looked back at Adam, who was standing in the shadows, holding his injured arm. "And to ensure that this bridge never falls, Daisy continued, her voice gaining a mischievous, defiant edge. I exercise my right under the law of unification. The crowd, even the remote viewers, seemed to hold their breath. I choose a consort, Daisy announced. Adam's eyes widened. He shook his head slightly. Don't do it, he mouthed. I choose the one who taught me to speak when the world wanted me silent, Daisy said. She extended her hand toward him. Contractor Adam, step forward. Adam hesitated. Every instinct in his body told him to run, to grab his bag and flee to the nearest spaceport. But he looked at her face. She looked so proud, so sure. He walked forward. He took her hand. I name you, Daisy said, a grin breaking through her royal mask, consort of the third tongue, and my partner in crime. Lily, standing behind them, clapped loudly. Finally, can we eat now? I saved the planet on an empty stomach. The tension broke. A cheer went up from the ships, tentative at first, then roaring. The Queen smiled. Milo the drone bobbed in the air, releasing a stream of confetti he had apparently been saving for years. It was the perfect ending. The hero got the girl. The villain was in chains. The world was saved. But Adam didn't smile. He looked at the cheering holograms. He looked at Eve's approving nod. And then he looked at Daisy, who was beaming at him with a love so pure it made his stomach turn. He still had the microphone clipped to his collar. It was live. Daisy, Adam said. His voice was amplified. The cheers died down, confused by the tone. It wasn't happy. It was broken. Daisy's smile faltered. Adam, what is it, your shoulder? No, Adam said. He pulled his hand away from hers. The physical separation felt like a slap. Soren was right, Adam said. The silence that fell over the cabin was heavier than the lockdown. Adam, Daisy whispered. What are you talking about? Adam looked at the camera drone. He looked at the world he had just helped save. He said I was discharged for cognitive dissonance instability, Adam said, his voice trembling. That is the polite term. The real term is, I am a noise seed. Eve took a sharp step forward, her hand going to her belt. A seed, Eve hissed. That is a myth. A human weapon from the war. It is not a myth, Adam said. Tears welled in his eyes, hot and stinging. I have an implant in my cerebral cortex. It generates a passive, low-frequency chaotic field. It is designed to disrupt hive minds, to create static in a collective consciousness. He looked at Daisy. She looked like he had just stabbed her. I did not know I had it active until I came here, Adam said, the words tumbling out, now a confession he had held for 3 years. I thought it was dormant, but then I met you. He stepped back, away from the dais. Why do you think the cabin likes me, Daisy? Adam asked, his voice cracking. Why do you think I can read the static so well? Because I am the static. I am the reason the chorus feels fuzzy around the edges when I am near. I am a walking jammer. No, Daisy whispered. You helped me. You built the bridge. I avoided you, Adam said, crying now. I hid in the vents. I ran away every time you looked at me. Not because I was shy, but because every minute I spend next to you, I am degrading your connection. If I stay, if I become your consort, I will slowly, inevitably poison the very network you just saved. He looked at the crown line glowing on the floor. I am not the bridge, Daisy, Adam said softly. I am the bomb. He reached up and ripped the consort badge, a holographic projection the system had just assigned him, off his chest. I cannot be your partner, Adam said, backing toward the door. I am the thing you need to be protected from. He turned and walked out into the snow, leaving the Queen, the princess, and the entire planet watching his back as he walked away from the happy ending he wanted more than air, but knew he couldn't afford.